Welcome back everyone to Blender and Unreal Engine becoming a dungeon prop artist. Now, the one thing we need to do before actually we create these stalling chairs is we just need to make sure that this is named correctly, which it is, so we already did that. And now what we want to do is we want to actually discuss our Blender Asset Manager. So for those of you who are using, I think, Blender 3 onwards, might even be 2.9, not sure. But Blender Asset Manager is amazing. It's just an amazing thing. I'm going to show you now how to actually use it. So I'm going to play a short video now of how to actually use it and what you can get out of it. And I'll see you on the other side. Welcome everyone to the short introduction on the Asset Manager within Blender. Now before we get started, let's take a quick look at what we're actually trying to achieve here. So if you see on the top left hand side here, I have actually one called Assets, which we're actually going to create. If we actually click on that, you'll see it opens up a new window. And within that window, we have assets on the left-hand side grouped together. Not only do we have assets, we also have actually a material library as well. So we're going to learn actually how to actually put these into this group and how Blender can actually find them. But before we do that, let me just show you how they actually work. So within my stylized assets, I have all of these assets which are from multiple courses, and I can simply drag and drop my asset actually into place. Now the asset doesn't just come in with the actual model, it also comes in, if I click on my materials tab, with the actual materials. So I can bring any asset in, and they should come in nice and flat for you into any scene that you want to create. Now with the actual materials, if I actually just bring in a cube, so I'm just going to bring in a cube, I'm going to move it over to the left hand side, and I'm going to come over to my stylized materials, and I'm simply going to drag and drop onto my actual cube, and there you go. You can see this one is glass. I've only got on materials at the moment, so you won't actually see through it or anything like that, but you can see that we can just drag and drop materials onto our actual cube and things like that. You can see that this one is water, and you can see how easy it is just to drag and drop them on. Now, some of them, depending on how complex they are going to take a little bit longer actually to place on your cube. But apart from that, they work really, really well. Now, enough of all that. Let's go back now to a brand new Blender file, and I'll show you exactly how we're going to set this up. So here we are in our Blender actual default view. And what I'm going to do is I'm first of all going to come up to the right-hand side. I'm going to come across, and you'll notice if I come across the general, we have one that says asset. Now, some of you might not actually have asset, and if you haven't got asset, just click on something like modeling, or click on modeling, and you'll notice now that we've got another one called modeling.001, and the reason is, of course, because we already have one called modeling. Now, if I come and left click, so double left click on here, let's call this asset, like so, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to pre-order this to the actual front. So we now have asset, layout, and modeling. Now at the moment, this is just a copy of my modeling, and I don't really want that. So what I want to do is I want to come down to the left-hand side. And as I come to this corner, you'll see this little kind of cursor appear. And if I left click and drag, so from the corner, left click and drag up, you'll now have actual two windows. Now what you want to do is you want to come over to where this actual icon is here, left click it, and over on the right hand side you'll have one that says Asset Browser. And there we go. So now we actually have our Asset Browser, and now you can click on this anytime that you want. Now it's important for this to actually work that first of all I'm going to press Tab just to get out of my edit view. If I come over to File and I come down, and what I want to do is I want to come to defaults and I want to save it as a startup file. But you don't probably want it here, like looking here in your assets when you first open up Blender. So if you don't want that, just come to modeling, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go to File, Default, Save Startup File. And now every time you load up Blender, you're also going to have this asset manager in place. Now, how do we make groups? So the way we make new groups is you can see here, we can change this from all. You can see it's on current file, and you can see there's also an unassign button. Now, it's important that we keep that unassigned button there because many times I've created assets and I can't find them, and of course they'll be in the unassigned. Now, let's create a new group. So if we create one called materials, like so, and then we know we can place all of our materials in this one. So it's just a little plus to create a subgroup under all. If you want to subgroups under materials, you just click the plus on the actual materials, and then it will create a subgroup under this actual materials, as you can see there. All right, you can see there's also a little star there. That just means that we need to save this blend file out. So just save your blend file out if you actually want to save out these materials once you've actually got them in place. Now, how does Blender know where to actually look for these assets? Well, what you need to do is you need to come up to Edit, go down to Preferences, and then what you need to do is you can see over here where it says User Library. This is where Blender needs to actually know where to actually look. So you can see mine at the moment. I've created a desktop icon that's called Blender Assets, and that's where I'm actually telling Blender to actually go and look. Now, the thing is, any blend file that you create, just create a copy of it and actually put it into this new desktop blend file. It doesn't have to be in your desktop, but it needs to all be in the same file to actually work. Once you've actually done that, then we can close that down or save preferences. You can also do it that way. Close it down, and now you'll see if I come down to User Library, you will have a problem here that we haven't actually got anything in there. So if we go to Open Preferences, and now we click on this, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and now I'm going to find my Blender Asset Library, which is this one here. And you can see I've got all of these blend files in there. If I click Accept now, close that down, and now when I come and actually click on my catalog, you can see that I've got all of these actual materials and things in place. This is why it's really important that you actually make sure that you actually put in your blend files into that directory. Now, the next thing we need to discuss is how to actually create our actual assets. So for instance, let's create a material. So if I come over to the right hand side, I'm just going to create a cube material like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a base color. So let's just change the base color to a red. Let's put it on material so we can see it. And there we go, we've got our cube material. Now what I want to do is I want to right click. I want to come down and mark as asset. And you'll notice now that it's got these kind of blocks stacked together. And that basically means that this has been saved out now as an actual material. Now, of course, this blend file hasn't been saved out into my assets. So all I need to do now is go to File, Save As, and then I'm going to go to my desktop and come to my Blender Asset Library, which is this one. And now I need to save this out as a blend file within here. Then what Blender will do is it will pick up that this is a blend file within that actual file. So this one here, and then you'll actually have access to this material. Now, the next thing you need to do is you need to actually, let's save a cube out, for instance, instead of an actual material, let's save out an object. So all you do is you right click, come down to mark as asset. And again, you'll see now that we've got those three actual stacked blocks. And now because you have actually saved this blend file out into your asset library, every single time now that we open Blender, so if I close this down and reopen Blender, you'll see you can go to your assets. And now we can see that we can go to our user library, open preferences, and let's find our actual Blender asset library, click accept, close that down. And there we go. You can see I've got all of my assets in. You can even see the ones that aren't actually assigned, but you can see I've got all of these assets in place already. Now, just before we finish up, a couple of things to remember. First of all, when you go to Edit and Preferences, you will see that this is normally red. You just have to name it something so it's not actually red, and then you won't have any problems with it. Second thing is that once you've taken the time to actually create all of your assets and all of the materials and things like that, by right-clicking them and mark as an asset, just remember to save that file out in the actual place where you save them out. So for me, it's my Blender asset library. If you don't save out a separate version of Blender in there and you end up overwriting it, then you will lose all of those assets, of course. Basically, it's a blend file just with all of your assets in there. That's all that should be in there. All right, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed that. A few troubleshooting problems at the end as well. And as they say, on with the show. Welcome back, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed that introduction to the Asset Manager. And on the next lesson, we will actually be doing that ourselves, just so that you've got all of these assets and you can bring them into any blend file and things like that. And you can create a massive Blender library with all of these kind of dungeon props and things. All right, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.